Hello class, welcome to week 3. This week we are going to work on chapters 11 and 12, I think, yes, and this is going to be working on your introduction and your conclusions for your speeches. And this is all aimed at trying to help you get prepared for your upcoming informative speech. Now, your discussion question, you don't have to have a speech topic picked out. It could be a random topic, so you're not locked into this topic. For your assignment, what I would like for you to do is try to pick a topic that you're somewhat interested in. You may change it a little bit from now until the time you give your speech, but if you're more familiar with what you're going to be doing, then this assignment can really help you with the reference and the research side. So part of being able to keep your audience's attention and give a good speech it all rests within the introduction and the conclusion. A lot of research and a lot of speakers say that the introduction is when the audience determines whether they're going to pay attention to you or not, whether they're interested in your topic, and the conclusion is where they somewhat derive whether it was a good speech or whether it was worthwhile. So much if you have a really organized and strong introduction and a really effective and strong conclusion, sometimes you can make some mistakes in the middle and it not affect you as bad. So this is kind of important for us to realize as speakers. And the parts of the introduction that we're going to be working on and that are essential to have is your attention getter, your thesis, and your relevancy statement. And the part of the thesis that a lot of people tend to overlook is actually previewing your main points. And so that's what we're going to start working on in the discussion forums. So you'll pick a random topic. You can pick one that you may be interested in and start working on it, or you can just pick a random topic and you don't have to do anything else with it outside of this assignment. The purpose of the assignment, whether you're using a topic that you're going to use or you're just picking a random topic, is the same. It's getting you used to writing an attention getter and writing a thesis. Remember, an attention getter is something that gets your audience's attention. It can be a question, it can be a quote, it can be a statistic, it can be a story. But it's really important to make sure that it is coherent, that it matches your goal and your speech topic, and also that it doesn't take so much time. One of the major mistakes, especially when you're beginning speaking, is having your introduction be the most of your speech. Your introduction is supposed to get our attention, give us a quick summary of what you're talking about and why it's important. You're not supposed to tell an entire story for 5 minutes and then get to the body of your speech. The introduction should never reach over a minute, even for long speeches, because it's important that you hook us in the beginning so we know what's coming. And so that's what we're going to work on. And then your conclusion, this is where you need to allow your audience to know that you're closing. You need to signal the conclusion and you need to provide closure. We've all watched a movie or read a book that just ended abruptly, and part of you is just left with this angst and this uneasiness because you weren't given closure. And so this is important when you're speaking, is to give your audience closure. Now for informative speeches it's a bit difficult because you can't give closure and call them to action or motivate them or ask them to feel, think, or do anything about your topic. So you have to provide closure in an informative, non-biased, non-emotional way. Persuasive speeches are usually pretty easy to provide closure to, especially if it's a topic that you are passionate about and that you have developed a really strong speech for. Providing closure allows the audience to know what to do next. So you've created this uneasiness within me, and now this is how I resolve it. Usually what you want to do, and it's a good rule of thumb for your informative speeches, is you want to mirror whatever you did for an attention getter. So if I open with a joke, I end with a joke. If I open with a quote, I end with a quote. And that's a good way to provide closure in an informative speech without starting to share what you feel, think, or do, or what you would like your audience to feel, think, or do. Let's see. Also, signaling the conclusion is important. The easy ways and the basic foundational ways is just to say, in closing, in conclusion, now that we've completed, something along those lines. But there are more creative ways to also conclude a speech or to signal the conclusion. If you're giving a speech about how to prepare a certain dish, you could say, now that your dish is complete. And so now we know that the steps of preparation are complete, and then you're into the conclusion. Now as our story comes to an end, that could be one, especially like if you're doing a narrative order for your speech. If you're telling a story in your introduction to engage your audience, to get their attention, you can't tell the entire story there. And lots of times people want to tell that entire story there. That's your gold. If you have the ability to connect a story throughout your speech, that's how you keep the personal and keep the interpersonal involvement within the speech. Probably one of the most powerful examples I have of this is I had a student who did an organ donation speech. An organ donation speech for persuasive speeches, I hear 2 or 3 a class period usually. So they're kind of boring, if I'm going to be honest. They're important. I'm a huge organ donor, support the cause, but the speech content is usually quite boring. And so she came to me and she said that she wanted to use her brother's story because he was an organ donor, and he was also a organ recipient. And she wanted to tell his story and tell the process and the procedures and the reasons why to donate organs as the story of the different things that her brother encountered. And it was beautifully executed. Her brother received 2 kidney transplants, but in the end he still did die. And so she told the story about the wait as her brother was waiting and struggling for life. She told the story of how you give life and how a family gets time to be with their loved one longer after her brother received his organ, and they were awarded 3 or 4 more wonderful years with him. And then she tells the heartache of losing someone and knowing, however, that they saved someone else because once her brother did pass, he donated his organs. It was very powerful. And it's memorable to me because there was a story connected to each part. So I think that that's one of the most effective ways to keep an audience interested. Have a strong introduction and a strong body as well as a strong conclusion. So don't tell the entire story in the opening, because then we know the story, and then you're going to string us along with boring facts for the rest of the speech, and that just doesn't go very well. Unless you're totally interested and dedicated to the topic, most of us will become somewhat bored. And that was one of the things that a lot of you mentioned in your post about listening and communicating skills, is that you're good listeners unless you get bored. Well, everyone's a good listener unless they get bored. And so it's our job as speakers and it's our job as speech writers to try to lessen the chance of boredom. That doesn't mean that you're putting on a circus or it's an act, but it means that you have to think of ways that will make your material interesting and refreshing for your audience. So your discussion question, which is due by Wednesday at 10:59 p.m., I want you to pick a random topic with 3 main points. This does not have to be your speech topic, but it can be if you already know what you want to do. So if you already know what you want to do for your informative speech or your persuasive speech, you can feel free to use that. If you don't, then just take your time and pick a random topic. I mean, it could be how to make a snowman. Pick something better than that, but it could be something that silly. After you've picked your topic and your 3 main points, then I want you to identify topic, 3 main points, and then I want you to write these 2 things. I want you to write an attention getter, and I want you to write a thesis statement with your main points previewed. And so the responding part for your participation this week is that I want you to go to your classmates. I want you to read their topic, read their main points, look at their attention getter, and look at their thesis statement, and give them constructive feedback. Does that work? Is there a better way? Here's a revision. And the reason I want to do this is because our first thesis statement will be awful. It will be mediocre at best. And then the art of it is working with it as you practice and as you develop your speech until you have this really organic, natural, flowing presentation. And so together we're going to try to do that with some of these topics. The great thing is if you already know what one of your speech topics are, you're going to have a great sounding board to create some really interesting material here. And so that's how you get your participation points. If you just merely post, oh, this is a great topic, I can't wait to hear it, then that's not going to count as a participation point post. You can do those, that's fine, but you want to make sure that you at least have 2 really good substantive posts so you get your points. And then your Saturday assignment that is due by Saturday. This one is about research. So the second part about a speech that a lot of people struggle with is research. You need to have strong, legitimate research. And that's not my opinion. I feel Mama said, Daddy said, I was raised that way. That's not research. That's personal beliefs and values. And there's nothing wrong with personal beliefs and values, but they're personal. So if you're going to speak to someone else or persuade someone else or change someone else's mind, then you need to know how to do the research to support your personal beliefs and your personal values. So that's what this speech is about, or this assignment is about. And I want you to do this with your informative speech, because this is your first speech, like hardcore speech. So I'd like for you to think about a topic or a general area that you would like to do for your informative speech. And then I want you to go out and find 3 types of references you'll be using, 1 reference from each of those, and attempt to cite them. So say I'm going to use a journal article. I say I want to use something from a government website, and say I want to use something from a book. So I would identify those are the three places that I want to try to find material for this topic. Then I want you to go out there and find an example. It doesn't have to be related to something that you will actually use. I want you to find a journal article. I want you to find a book, and I want you to find some material from a government website. And I want you to look at your APA material in the additional resources, and I want you to try to your best ability to put those three references in APA format. You're graded off your ability to put these in APA format. Knowing that there will be some mistakes, there will be some adjustments that need to be made. As long as I can see that you're working on your APA, then you're not going to lose any points. If you straight up use MLA, you're going to lose points. If you copy and paste the URL and put that as your reference, you're going to lose points. There are certain things that I can, formatting, if you take the time to look at APA formatting, that I'll be able to tell if you're trying or if you're just randomly copying and pasting things. If you find a journal article and you go to the citation and you copy and paste it, that's not going to work either, because even if you do the APA part of it, it's not going to be accurate, because it's going to be APA for whatever edition was used at the time that that journal article was published. And some journals, they use APA, but then they have their own guidelines as well. So you need to find your material and look at that and try to get, to your best ability, APA. And that will be this week. Working towards that. I think we meet on the 17th, I think is when we meet. So that's getting close. I think we have about 2 more weeks. So if you have any questions, thoughts, or comments, please let me know. Have a great week. Bye.